Alright, so I'm Vikramond, and let's take a look at this game between Pulse and FUBAR, so the fucked up beyond all recognition team, and I'll be calling them FUBAR during this cast. I'm not actually that familiar with FUBAR's lineup, so they have Smogoleg, who's a fairly prominent European pro, but I don't know the rest of their team that well, so it'll be interesting to sort of see how they do against Pulse, who are, at this point, I think one of the premier teams in the European scene. So Pulse are a Swedish team. Their captain, I think Wagamam is their captain. Yeah, he is. And so we'll see how they do against FUBAR, and we'll sort of see how this goes. Pulse is just coming off another game, actually. I think also, and this is a Starladder Season 4 game, and I think they're coming off a Starladder Season 4 game as well. They faced against Navi, who are essentially the best team, or considered the best, or in the top two teams in the sort of Western European Dota scene. So Pulse actually lost that game. It was somewhat long. It was almost 50 minutes long, but Navi sort of took a lead early and never gave it up at any point. So we'll sort of see if that makes Pulse sort of reach for a shorter game, since their last game was sort of long and a drawn-out slog, and sometimes you see that as teams go from game to game, they react to the previous game when going to the next game, so we'll see if that happens. So we're into the ban phase already. Pulse has decided to ban out Templar Assassin first, and FUBAR has banned Batrider. These are two pretty common bans of first picks. We actually sometimes see the Templar Assassin getting through, and people picking her up, but I think in this case Pulse just played against a TA for 15 minutes and Dendi did very, very well on her, so maybe their priority level for banning Templar Assassin is slightly higher than it would be otherwise. And then Pulse also takes out Darkseer. Darkseer is also, and then FUBAR takes out Wisp. These are all very, very common bans. This is a pretty standard first four ban period, and now we're going to get into the picks. Essentially, you rarely see Batrider getting through, and you pretty rarely see Wisp or Darkseer getting through, and Templar Assassin is definitely right on the cusp of being worth it to ban first versus being worth it to try to get through to pick up for first pick. So if you're the first pick, so in this case Pulse, you really just can afford to not ban whatever it is that you want to get first. And in this case, that's Magnus. Magnus, in the last week or two, his stars really, really risen. He's sort of become, from a sort of fringe pick where people would consider picking him up, and he was very strong when they did pick him up, but he wasn't like an every game sort of thing, to, yes, we want this character every game, we'll spend our first pick to get him, and sometimes we'll even put him in the first ban phase. The reason Magnus has sort of risen so strongly is that he's just so strong in multiple lane configurations, and especially he's sort of considered one of the best off-lane heroes. So you have a lane in which you put one player against either against one or against two or three, and Magnus is just very, very strong at being able to survive and still get some creep kills and still get some farm, some gold in that off lane. Because Magnus has this ability Skewer, which is a long distance charge, which will continue even if he gets stunned during that period. And he has this Shockwave, which lets him do damage from a long distance. So he's sort of able to hit away from a very long distance and still get damage in, still escape from difficult situations, and even set up kills sometimes. We saw a great game only over this weekend between EG, Evil Geniuses, and Dignitas, where Magnus was used solo mid and actually managed to defeat a Templar Assassin simply by getting behind her, skewering her back. Skewer pushes whoever it goes through with it, and then just skewering her all the way back to the tower, causing her to take a ton of damage and not actually be able to escape. So, in response to the Magnus pick, FUBAR picks up Jakiro and Bounty Hunter. Bounty Hunter may very well be their offlane hero. He's also fairly strong. His priority level as a pick has sort of fallen a little bit, with Magnus sort of making a debut as an even stronger offlane hero, but he's still very, very strong, and he's good to get your team's gold up with track. And they take Jakiro, who's probably the #1 support character at the moment, due to his very reliable stun on his Ice Path, which is very, very good ability. He has some pushing power in his Liquid Fire, and he's able to deal a ton of damage in teamfights if the other team is kept fairly steady with his Macro Pyre column of damage ability. Then we go back to Pulse, and Pulse picks up Sven and Rubik. So Sven is probably going to be their carry, although sometimes teams will play Sven in sort of a semi-carry position where he gets some farm and then get another carry on top of that. I think that's relatively unlikely, where we will probably see Regen, Pulse's carry player, on the Sven. Sven has become more and more popular. You sort of at this point see him all the time. There was a brief period in which Sven sort of actually climbed up into this tier of being banned out at the beginning, but I think this space is just so crowded with heroes that must be banned right now that you usually see Sven get through. And when you see Sven get through, he's usually going to get picked. And if he's going to get picked, it'll be in this first 6 picks, since once you actually reach the additional 6 bans phase, if Sven is still in the pool, generally teams will ban him out. So Pulse takes Sven and Rubik. Rubik, just a good all-around choice, very, very popular support character. The advantages of Rubik already is that he can steal. Rubik has a spell stealing ability, that's his ultimate, and it allows him to take any spell that has just been cast by the opposing team. So already they have several good candidates for that. They have this Backer Pyre is good, Ice Path is very, very good because it gives you another stun. Track is fantastic. One of the reasons people take Bounty Hunter is to get a big gold advantage on the other team, because as you're getting kills, this track is giving you additional gold for each kill. So if Rubik steals that, essentially the gold advantage the FUBAR could get from Bounty Hunter would be somewhat dissipated for the period of time that Rubik has the stolen spell. So they have their carry player and they have their support. FUBAR picks up another support in the form of Disruptor. This is sort of you can run a Jakiro, Disruptor, and plus carry tri-lane, which is a lane with 3 people in it, and that's very, very strong. Disruptor has a number of good abilities. He's good as sort of an anti-carry support in some respects because he has certain things like Glimpse. Glimpse moves the target back in time 4 seconds, so you can use it to set up very strong positioning play. Static Field, Kinetic Field holds someone in place, and then his Static Storm silences and also does quite a bit of damage. So he's able to sort of, I mean, that's why it's called Disruptor. He's able to sort of do space control and disruption effects. So he's especially considered strong. We haven't seen Disruptor that much, but we have sort of started seeing some activity pick up. In the period of time when Anti-Mage was essentially the strongest carry, Disruptor is picked somewhat frequently as a counter to Anti-Mage, because one of Anti-Mage's abilities is to sort of blink away very easily from a fight that's not going his way, but Disruptor can bring him right back after the blink with Glimpse. But we've sort of started seeing Disruptor a little more. You can also take Disruptor as sort of a denial pick because he's a good incumbent in concert with Magnus, but in this case I think FUBAR just wanted the second support and they want that very dangerous tri-lane. So then we go into the next set of bans. FUBAR takes out 3 supports. They sort of know in this next ban phase, what type of heroes you ban is interesting because it sort of reflects what you want to prevent the other team from having. You sort of look, okay, these guys have a carry, a solo laner, and a support. So we could ban, you know, mids, other possible mid heroes, offlane heroes, or another support. So FUBAR has gone for banning support. So they take out the Chen, they take out the Shadow Demon, and they take out the Leshrac. Chen is kind of an interesting ban as Pulse, as far as teams go, doesn't really favor Chen. Chen is a relatively popular hero, less popular than he once was, but still quite popular. But it's interesting that it's just to ban him when Pulse is not that enamored of Chen as a hero. So Pulse, meanwhile, bans 2 popular carry picks, Lifestealer and Clinks. Lifestealer in particular is quite good against Sven. Sven has high HP, but he can be brought down by the Lifestealer, whose attacks do a percentage of HP damage. And Sven can be kited by Lifestealer due to Lifestealer's very, very strong slow. And they really don't want to carry who, in addition to dealing a lot of damage, can also slow Sven. They absolutely don't want that. So that's why they took out the Lifestealer. And then they take out Clinks to sort of keep the game relatively predictable. Clinks is a roaming carry who can sort of pick off characters very, very easily. So Pulse picks up Windrunner and Enigma. So these are interesting picks. One of these will certainly be the long lane solo. Oh, no, sorry. Well, they might run. So what it looks like is that Pulse actually have 4 heroes that could run in the long lane solo position. Magnus is sort of the premier one, but he's more likely to be going mid for them at this point, I feel. Because Magnus is also a very, very strong mid, and they've picked up these sort of even more long lane concentrated hero in the form of Windrunner. They actually end up not going with another hard support. You don't see Enigma played as a support because he really needs to level up quickly to get good levels in Malefice, which is a periodic stun, good levels in Demonic Conversion, and it definitely has Black Hole ability, which is sort of a signature ultimate ability. And then, so those are what they pick up. We'll talk about their lands in a second. And then FUBAR pick up Puck and Luna. Puck is a somewhat non-traditional pick. You do see him way more often than you see certain other heroes because he's very viable, but he sort of fades in and out in terms of whether he's picked up. There are certain players that really like to play him, like Dendi of Na'Vi really likes to play Puck when he's feeling a little mischievous. Puck is an interesting character because she has very, very good mobility. She's able to do a little bit of immobilization, a bit of silence, and she just has a very, very varied toolbox of skills that they can sort of apply. And they will be playing Puck in the middle, most likely. So one of the interesting abilities of Puck is this phase shift ability, which allows for, between 1 and 3 seconds, Puck to sort of phase out completely. And what that does is anything that's attacking Puck during that period will do no damage. So even if there is a stun or damage in flight, Puck will be able to dodge it by using the phase shift ability. So that's sort of the foundation of a lot of big plays videos that you see. So you see Puck escaping from tons of damage by clever use of the phase shift ability. So FUBAR is going to put Quicks on the Luna, Chew on the Bounty Hunter. We've got Zap Crash on the Jakiro, Smokeleg on the Disruptor, and whoever Christopher Nolan is on the Puck. And most likely what they're going to do is run this very strong and somewhat scary tri-lane in the form of Jakiro, Disruptor, and Luna. And I think they are most likely going to put that top in their safe lane, although they could. This tri-lane is capable of outputting so much damage and so much positional play in the form of this sort of glimpsing people back, perhaps keeping them static, keeping them in place with the kinetic field, stunning them with Ice Path and dealing damage to Shakira, and then following that up with Luna's good magic damage, that they could opt to run it as a aggressive tri-lane in the bottom, and they may end up doing that, so we'll see. But at any rate, that's what their team's going to be, and then we'll definitely, the other 2 lanes, regardless, will be Puck in the middle and Bounty Hunter on the off lane. Although, yeah, I mean, you can run Disruptor mid as well, but I think it'll most likely be Puck. I think he's just scouting or doing something else here. So on the other team, on the other side on Pulse, we've got Wagamama is actually going on the Sven, which is quite interesting. I think this is actually interesting because in the last game, Region didn't play a carry player either, really. He played Windrunner. Sorry, he's playing Windrunner now, but last game he played Darkseer. So I wonder if they're not trying out a slight lineup shift. Region typically played their number 1, so he would play their hard carry player if they had one. And this is 2 games in a row where he sort of hasn't. I haven't heard any news about Pulse changing not their lineup because the players are the same, but sort of how they arrange players on characters. But that is certainly interesting. Typically on Dota teams, you do have sort of these defined roles where if we have a carry, this player is playing that is going to play that carry, no matter what carry it is. And then, if we have a support, these players will play support. So we do have a fight right at the bottom here to start out with. So Puck actually gets picked off very, very early, unfortunately. I think he was a little bit out of position, honestly. The thing about Puck is at level 1, you almost always take this blink ability. You can't really take phase shift at level 1 because the blink, the illusory orb, which deals damage, and Puck can sort of switch her position with the orb. That really has to be taken first. You can't take phase shift first. But the consequence is, what would be a very good way of dodging Sven's stuns is not available at level 1. So Puck gets picked off there, and they have to stop that 5v5 fight at the bottom right in its tracks. I think if Puck had been able to be a little farther back, they would have still kept fighting, but as it is, they sort of get picked off, unfortunately. So we've got a counter ward here, a jungle ward by FUBAR. Positioning a ward here means that this jungle camp will not spawn any monsters, which means that Rubik as a support cannot pull creeps into here. So that's what they're trying to do with that. And I think it's sort of correct that they do end up going with the aggressive tri-lane. The reason it's called an aggressive tri-lane is your team as Dire is more safe here because you have this entire friendly jungle to support you. So if you really feel like your carry might be in danger and you really want to guarantee that farm, then you tend to put them up here, and that's the safe lane. What you can do instead, and this is what FUBAR have decided to do, we got Disruptor. Smokeleg is in a lot of trouble here. And they do take him down, so he gets caught out of position too. And this tri-lane is starting to not look so great. They really need to be able to ensure that they're positioned carefully enough that this Sven stun doesn't just lead to the inexorable death of someone. And even though Pulse are running a 2 vs 3 lane here, they do have a lot of danger in the form of this Rubik Telekinesis, which sort of disables someone for 1.5 seconds. Yeah, and then the follow-up Stormhammer, which disables them for another 2 seconds. So 3.5 seconds is quite a lot of time for somebody as fragile as Disruptor starts out, or even Luna, to be disabled. So FUBAR are going to have to be a little more careful than I think they thought they might have to be. But at any rate, they are running this tri-lane here against the dual lane from Pulse. This was definitely FUBAR's game plan, was to ensure that Pulse cannot just have an extremely safe tri-lane, because they banned out all those supports. So it's sort of imperative that FUBAR be able to seize the advantage in this lane. So Pulse are then running the Enigma in the jungle, so that's a popular place to put Enigma. He's a strong jungle farmer because he produces these demonic conversions that can sort of tank up damage for him and deal a lot of damage in the mid. And they're going to run Magnus mid against Puck, and then at top you sort of have this 1v1 lane. We're going to have a pause. So you have this 1v1 lane in the top with Regen on the Windrunner versus Chu on the Bounty Hunter. So Windrunner versus Bounty Hunter is sort of a classic long side lane solo matchup. They're both popular side lane solo heroes. They're not one of them is not really that favored against the other. Windrunner obviously can hit from a distance, and Bounty Hunter is melee, so that gives her a little bit of an inherent advantage. But then the fact that Bounty Hunter goes invisible can sort of balance that out somewhat. So in this case, Windrunner does have a slight advantage, and we sort of see that being carried forth in the last hits. So we've got 11 last hits from Windrunner so far, and 7 for Bounty Hunter. So that advantage will probably compound somewhat, but I don't expect it to be huge. And eventually the Bounty Hunter, since this is a very safe lane in the sense that Windrunner is unlikely to just kill him outright, he's going to get the levels he needs to start roaming and really trying to kill people off with that track. And the essential point of Bounty Hunter is sort of this roaming ganker who disrupts the mid game. So now we see. So let's take a look at this mid matchup. So one of the strengths of Magnus is that he's able to sort of. Oh, he has a haste run right now. So actually, Puck is playing very conservatively because he's scared of this haster, essentially. Magnus is good in mid because the distance between the towers is actually the shortest in middle. Oh, and now he's trying to set up that skewer. He ends up not going for it, but the distance between the mid tower on Radiant side and the mid tower on Dire side is far smaller than the distance between them on the top and bottom side. So Magnus's skewer ability to move someone to up to 1,200 yards is strongest in the middle lane. Oh, and I missed this kill down here. But this is very, very bad for FUBAR down here. So the fact that Pulse is just continually getting pickoffs. So Luna actually was quite out of position if she was here. Oh, they were warding. So they continue to sort of ward this lane to give more pressure on Pulse. And Rubik does end up dying in that engagement. But trading a Rubik for a Luna is really good for Pulse, because the people who really, really don't want dying early are your carries, because they really need to farm. But in this case, FUBAR loses their carry player, they lose Luna and Pulse loses Rubik, so that's a good trade for Pulse. However, although Luna has a pretty short range for a carry, it is larger than 128, which is melee range, and Sven's range is just the minimum. So in one respect, FUBAR's tri-lane that they're running is actually paying off because they're able to deny farm to Wagamama. If Wagamama goes up to the creep line to try to actually get a last hit, he has to be certain that he can at least draw the resulting engagement, because they have such long-ranged harassing tools with this Jakiro and the Disruptor ability that if you come too far up, you're just in great danger. So Rubik can blink away from a distance with his Fade Bolt ability, but Sven has a lot of trouble when he comes all the way up. So he's playing very, very conservatively. You can see he comes up and he just immediately cops that Moonbeam from Luna, damage from Smogoleg, damage from Smogoleg Solutions, and consequently we see that borne out in the farm. So we've got 6 last hits for Wagamama and 23 for Quicks. So that's a significant advantage. Now the nice thing about running a Sven is that Sven doesn't need quite as much farm as Luna does to be effective. You can have your Sven with just a few items, some of which are fairly low cost, and he's already quite effective. Like Sven is a Holy Terror with just boots, Mask of Madness, and Armlet. But Luna really needs a little more money invested into her before she does a huge amount of, that auto attack damage. She's still useful in terms of magic damage, just because her Lucent Beam and her Eclipse are really just based on levels and not really farm. But to do any more damage than that, she really needs to get good items. So FUBAR's tri-lane here is managing to make sure that Wagamama does not get too much farm early. I think Pulse for now are okay with this, but eventually they're going to have to find a solution to make sure that Wagamama is able to hit milestones like his boots. These boots are quite far behind. He is building a more expensive pair of boots. Luna's sometimes, ever since this was actually pioneered at the International 2, was this Luna's building Tranquil boots because she needs other items more than she needs tier 2 boots. Tranquil boots are very cheap, and they give her that, that cheap armor, health regeneration, a lot of speed, and a heal that she can use to sort of heal up from any harassment damage. So that's what Quicks has decided to go for. Sven, meanwhile, it's rarer that he goes power. Oh wow, Quicks is in trouble again. The supports are all the way up here, and consequently, oh, Wagamama misses an auto attack hit, but they are going to pick off quicks, I think. They might not. Yes, they will. So that's another death for Luna. So even though he has more farm, and Fishbone ends up going for the black hole when Puck comes in here, I don't think that's actually going to... Now we have the Puck ultimate. That's what this is. These ties, these tethers. So that was great play from Puck. That leads to 2 kills. So they're not as favorable of a trade if you... Actually, Puck dies too. So actually, Pulsar's still happy with this. Unless Wagamama dies. Which he will. He might pick off Smugglig. Wow. Bloodbath down here. So we've got three deaths on each side. So we end up losing Sven, Rubik, and Enigma for Disruptor, Puck, and Luna. And up top here, we actually have Regent and Chew trading. So we've got Windrunner killing Bounty Hunter, and vice versa. So deaths all over the globe here. Wow. Goodness gracious. So, they're smiling. So that was an interesting situation where just deaths everywhere on the map for a moment there. And now we sort of see FUBAR sort of heading into an advantage in farm here. This Bounty Hunter has secured some advantage in farm now that he's, I think, is he a higher level? Yeah, so Bounty Hunter is 8, and so is Windrunner. Sorry, Windrunner is 5, so actually Bounty Hunter has a huge advantage in this lane. I wasn't quite paying attention to what was going on there, but that's actually a dramatic advantage for that Bounty Hunter. Is that true? Yeah, wow. So Bounty Hunter, the fact that Regent managed even a trade there is really good for him because he's 3 levels behind this Bounty Hunter. He might actually, they might go in on him here. So this Bounty Hunter is just waiting for the right moment to see if Disruptor will sort of aid him. So Regent is 3 levels behind, which is interesting, and you generally don't want to be 3 levels behind in a one-on-one lane. But, you know, he's holding his own. He only has 1 death to his name, and that death was a trade with Bounty Hunter. Now they'll go in on him with Luna here. They pop the track, they pop the glimpse, it moves Regent back. He does manage to avoid the kinetic field, but there's no way he'll make it out of this. And actually they get the kill on quicks, which is very, very good for them. So, there's that kill line there. So Wagamama is actually managing to get a little space down here. Basically, you know, as soon as the Luna departs to take another lane and take kills up here, you can sort of get the space for Sven to actually get farm and actually start to come back into this game. But now they rotate into mid. So Magnus got a little too aggressive. He thought he could pick off this Puck, and he came extremely close. Puck came within 50 HP of dying. And Bounty Hunter was there. He managed to get some pick off. And this is great for FUBAR because now they're getting that track gold early in, right? So that's 3 straight kills that they've had track gold for. And so they're going to start building up an advantage. But Pulse, knowing that FUBAR relatively occupied, can take this tower and get the kill on Wagamama. Sven, as far as carries go, is very, very good at pushing. So because he has this God Strength ability, which does great damage, he's able to clear waves quickly with his great clear ability, which he hasn't quite picked up. And he has this War Cry ability. This makes everything around him move faster and have more armor for a few seconds. So he can actually use that to ensure that his creep wave, so the wave of monsters that's coming with him, takes less damage from the tower as he's bringing it down with his God Strength. So you saw all of those elements interplay there, where he plus Enigma, who's a good pushing character with his Eidolons, plus Rubik, were able to get the tier 1 tower down very quickly. So that's the first tower death, and Pulsar still up 2 kills, but their position is somewhat precarious because they still only have 23 last hits on Waga. He still needs quite a bit more farm. They did win that bottom lane, essentially. They got more kills out than kills were coming in. But now Wagamama's in trouble. He's going to get glimpsed. He will definitely get tracked. He's stuck in here, so he can't really get out. Static Storm is up. That's what this blue stuff is. They sort of try to get Bounty Hunter, but now Puck is in. So this is good rotation from FUBAR, bringing, you know, their entire team, or most of their team, if they want to actually get a kill, and ensuring that they can secure it. Now, Pulse, with, you know, concerted effort from Wagamama, oh, Fishbone, I think, is in danger here. This was very out of position. He should not have run in on this. Yeah, he's just going to get picked up. There's just far too many people here. He shouldn't have come in. They were able to sort of concentrate enough damage on the Bounty, and now, wow, now Magnus is here. So he manages to just take down Jakir. He actually applied his ultimate, which is a long duration disable. And he's sort of continuing to push through here, exerting his influence. So Pulse loses a kill worth of advantage there, but I don't think any of the kills, one of the kills was with track. Sven had track on it. So not too bad. I think the Enigma was a miscommunication. He came in earlier than Magnus was coming in. Enigma Magnus is an incredibly strong combo because Magnus is able to, what Magnus's ability essentially, reverse polarity essentially does, is a very long duration disable and it pulls everyone in a certain radius of 410 into a tight ball. And what you can do is you can either do Enigma's long duration disable black hole first, and then reverse polarity the results of that, or you can reverse polarity, wait for that stun to almost expire, and then black hole the results of that. And the combo is just that, you know, basically the entire other team isn't moving for almost 8 seconds. So that can really, I mean, if you're actually able to land that, especially on their high-value heroes, and not get disrupted out of it, it's over. I mean, the black hole from Enigma can be interrupted, and we got this eclipse coming here, but the reverse polarity from Magnus cannot. So Wagamama's getting a little bold here. This was overly optimistic. We do have this black hole, but he's not able to actually catch Luna, and Luna disrupts it with a Lucent Beam. Lucent Beam has a tiny stun on it, what's called a mini stun. Well, yeah, a mini stun. So it's 0.6 second stun when you land the Lucent Beam. So that was able to interrupt Enigma's black hole before it was able to deal damage. That was a really misguided threat from Pulse. They were in this awkward area here where, like, you can't really see what's going on the other side, and, like, if you chase, you're right up under the tower. So they thought they could kill Luna, and they sort of traded quite a lot for that, unfortunately. So good news for Pulse, this Magnus is going quite well. He has less farm than Puck, but it's, you know, a minute difference, and you know, you're just always somewhat happy with Magnus on your team just simply because he's so strong. The one thing that he suffers from is mana issues. So you see he has this bottle, he has the magic wand, but unfortunately he, you know, still chews through. He only has 400 mana, and his abilities are fairly mana intensive. So the thing is more that his shockwave is very low cooldown. He really wants to get off that skewer. He wants to be able to do reverse polarity. So those things in combination mean that he chews through a lot of mana. So they do have detection. They use the dust to get out Bounty Hunter, and that's great for them. They really want to keep this Bounty Hunter down and keep him from being too much of a holy terror in terms of wandering around. They're going to follow that up with a push on this tower. Enigma's Eidolons are relatively fresh. These spawn copies of themselves after 6 successful auto attacks, so you'll see that they turn into 6 very quickly. And one more auto attack, maybe? They'll actually probably get the tower before they split up. That's funny. But at any rate, that's one of the things that makes Enigma so good. He can bring, you know, 6 additional units that deal more damage to it. So, meanwhile, we got Quicks and Smokeleg pressuring the middle a bit. They're not actually going to get the tower because they see that this tower is down and Pulse are probably coming down. But they do sort of provide that other map pressure. And Quick comes up here now that this creep wave is pushed all the way to this tower. It's quite safe, or he feels it's quite safe to farm here. Now, interestingly, I think Pulse feel good that they can actually do a little more disruption here. They can pick off, when Quicks feels safe somewhere around here, they feel that they can sort of come through the jungle and pick him off. And you see that they sort of put the Sentry Ward, which does not see territory, but it does see stealth. Yep, here they come. And they put the Observer Ward here, more importantly. So they were able to spot Quicks out and take him down. That's very clever play from Pulse. They knew that Quicks was going to pick up his free farm over here, and they decided, as soon as he tries to do it, we know that he's not going to have supports, and we're going to be able to pick him down. Now we got Wagamama being chased down here. He manages to juke into the trees. Chew doesn't feel confident enough to push the issue right then and there. Wow, and we managed to get a kill up here. Wow, Puck managed to pick up Winder, and I'm not... Oh, but that was in the middle, actually. It's my fault for missing that. Wagamama's in a lot of trouble here. When you're tracked, they can see where you are, so really Chew's just waiting for the exact right moment to sort of pair up with Smokeleg and just take Wagamama down. Oh, but the track expires, actually. Meanwhile, Pulse are putting a lot of pressure on this tower. They actually are going to get it, and that's pretty big. Now Pulse essentially have control of this lane, or rather, it's more that FUBAR doesn't have dedicated control, isn't it? So now they put up another extremely aggressive ward here. Pulse's plan at this point is to choke off any avenue of farm for Luna. So if she goes anywhere like here, she's already in a lot of danger. Oh wow, managed to get a little bit of counterattack on that Windrunner. However, Bounty Hunter, Magnus tries to get away with his skewer, but he's not actually able to. We got the kinetic field down, denying space. Oh, and Rishon's really getting into this game, so he's able to pick up Bounty Hunter there. Most likely Smokeleg will die as well. The problem with Disruptor is, you know, he dies easy, he goes down easily. Triple kill for Rishon, so really great play from Pulse in the middle there, managing to sort of make a triple kill out of nothing. I think FUBAR didn't even sort of realize that that was a dangerous team fight for them until it was almost over. They do have an fairly aggressive Observer Ward here to sort of see what's going on across the river, but definitely Pulse have the better of map control at this point. All of their towers are up, so the fact that they're able to the fact that they've taken out these 3 towers here means that this entire area is just so very, very dangerous for Quicks to farm in, because Pulse can really do a lot of incursions into here and take him down. They've got 3 wards. They've got complete vision of this jungle, essentially. And they've also got 2 sentry wards to keep track of where Bounty Hunter's positions are. So this is very much... they're going to actually go for... Well, Quicks might get out, because I think he smells something fishy. I don't know if he's just picking up an item, or if he's... Yeah, he's going back to base. Smart. It looks like he's going to go an early BKB, which is also smart. He's sort of playing very, very defensively, because he has been getting picked off. Ooh, they managed to kill off the Greevil. So Puck hunting for that Greevil, preventing it from getting to Wagamama, and I'm not sure if it had any items on it. I can't tell, unfortunately. But definitely that's a big setback for Pulse to not have access to their courier. They'll probably just buy another one. And wow! Huge damage from that Puck Bounty Hunter combo right there. That's going to be rough for Wagamama. He's just sort of trying to get back to this game, trying to get that farm, and being killed right when he was, you know... actually losing the courier and then losing himself is definitely not where Wagamama wants to be right now. So that's unfortunate. He was sort of farming alone. And you see, actually, this is interesting. FUBAR knows that they've given up control of this top area, so they want to exert control over this bottom area. So now you see them sort of starting to make the same ward pattern that Pulse did, very, very offensive. Region is trapped inside a kinetic field, but it looks like he doesn't even care. They're going to take out the smoke leg. They just have too much damage. Essentially, the supports... really, these teams both have so much magic damage that they're able to exert at any given time in a radius, that if you're a support, or even if you're Wagamama, even if you're a carry, and you get caught out relatively, you're just in a world of pain, because even any two characters on the other team can really just make your life hell. Magnus and Windrunner can do a ton of damage together. Rubik and anybody can do a ton of damage together. And obviously Bounty Hunter and Puck, which we just saw take Sven down in record time, are also very, very good together. Interestingly, Bounty Hunter's going for this Morbid Mask. This is... we don't that frequently see this. I think maybe he thinks it'll give him some... he's going to go the Vlad's. So he's going Vladimir's Offering, which is an item that sort of helps your team. It gives everyone in a radius lifesteal and armor and a little bit and damage percentage. So this is just to ramp up this Luna. That makes a lot of sense, actually. She's going to get the lifesteal that she needs. What you can do... on Luna, it's very, very common. You might see. Oh, Puck does manage to live. That's somewhat surprising. I thought he was going to go down there, but oh, Rishon attempts a great. That was going to be a very clever power shot if he had pulled it off, but instead it just looks like he power shot into the distance. They do manage to pick up Jakiro here. It's very difficult to escape from this spot on defense, just because your escape paths are so long and they sort of go through areas that can be pressured by the opposing team. Looks like they're going to counter push. So they're going to try to take down this tower. Oh wow, we got double portal from Pulse. They're definitely going to try to get Quicks. Will they be able to? No, he's not quite fast enough to get out. So that was really great on the spot work from Pulse there. They might lose Fishbone as a consequence, but they get this tower and they come over there and kill Quicks. So Fishbone still, yeah, he's... oh, excellent kinetic field. So the nice thing about Puck's ultimate, his Dream Coil, stuns and does damage, and then it stuns for longer and deals more damage if the characters in question move too far away from it. So it's a lot of pressure to stay in one place. But then you can pair that with the Disruptor kinetic field to ensure that they stay in place after that. So in some, it's, you know, a way to prevent people from moving at all. Puck does get picked off there. He does his best job to... you saw him use phase shift to sort of avoid damage. Region, meanwhile, is still alive, which is remarkable. This Bounty Hunter is usually able to pick off characters like that. But instead, Magnus comes back, Rubik comes back, and they pick off the Bounty Hunter. So that's fantastic work from Pulse. Pulse right now is exerting, I think, their superior ability to just run across the map. So we'll go here, but then we'll cut across. You can't counter push us because we'll just immediately pick off Quicks. And then actually some of us will come back over in time for the fight over here to actually go our way too. So great mobility from Pulse, just rocketing across the map and then back across the map again as needed to sort of get the edge in each of these team fights. So great work from Pulse there. What was it that I wanted to talk about? So, right. So Lunas frequently fairly early go the item Helm of the Dominator, which lets you mind control one creep on the map. Usually you take a heavy jungle creep, so something with a lot of HP. So like, I don't know, maybe a Dark Turtle Warlord or something. And then it also gives you Lifesteal. Lifesteal for Luna is quite good because her Moonglaive ability causes all of her abilities to bounce, and each of those abilities, you know, generates Lifesteal. So if you've got a bouncing attack that's hitting up to 6 targets, the fact that you can lifesteal off of that is really fantastic. And it bounces regardless of whether the targets are magic immune or what have you, because it's just a physical attack. So what you can do is you use your mind-controlled monster to stack these ancient camps, and you can see that they've been stacked by the supports here. This is a triple stack. And then you can use the Moonglaive ability when it's leveled up to just deal tons of damage. We've got a glimpse coming in here. Fishbone is in trouble. He's going to immediately black hole because he realizes he'll die otherwise. However, oh, he gets the Dream Coil damage, he gets the Lucent Beam damage, he gets some puck damage. We've got the Eclipse coming out from Luna. Magnus actually runs in and dies. Regen is on the run. Mini is just trying to provide cover fire in the form of Rubik. He actually gets track, so that's really good. Bounty Hunter's tracked now. They no longer have a movement speed disadvantage. It looks like they may want to press the issue. They stun Smokeleg. Smokeleg will die. His Static Storm, unfortunately, was almost completely useless because Fishbone was just pushed out of it immediately. And Shu goes down. So Regen is really seizing control of this game, even though he started really behind on levels. Excellent play from him in this sort of after long lane is roaming, running around, setting up good kills role. So absolutely excellent work from Regen. That looked quite potentially disastrous for Pulse. You know, Fishbone was in a ton of trouble. He sort of had to waste the black hole since it can just get interrupted by the Lucent Beam. And Magnus was dead, and yet they've converted this into what's going to be 3 kills, since I don't think Puck's going to make it out of this. Wow. Excellent blink there. So people will get blink on Puck to just get that additional edge of mobility. You can sort of phase shift. Blink Dagger, Wagamon was in a lot of trouble here. They're going to take him down. They actually pull him right back into the kinetic field. This is sort of their strategy all the time, is pull whoever you want back, kinetic field them, and then do what thou wilt with them when they're stuck in that. So 2 things I want to mention. Puck, the reason you get Blink Dagger is because if you're not taking damage for 3 additional seconds with this phase shift ability... Oh, wow. Pulse really wants to press this issue, which I'm not sure is a good idea. Fishbone's in trouble. He's probably going to get picked up on the back foot. Regen is trying to be in there, but he's probably got to get out at this point. Yeah, this unfortunately was a major overextension for Pulse. I think trying to go high ground and taking this tier 3 was overly optimistic for the stage in the game. So consequently, they lose 3 characters with no trade. And FUBAR, knowing that, you know, their Sven is down, their Enigma's down, they won't have Black Hole for a while, their Rubik is down, they really can't do too much about this Roche if we go for him now. So they're going to try to secure the Roshan, get that 1-up, get that additional gold. Magnus sort of smells blood here. Oh, what is he? So he has to empower himself, and they're... Oh, yeah, sorry. So Magnus has gems, so he knows that Bounty Hunter's here, and they might try to kill Bounty Hunter. Or they might not. Meanwhile, Roche is actually almost dead. Wagamama's going in? Wagamama is going in. Wow. This is bold. They're going to try to steal this out from under... Oh, wow, and they take quicks. Wow. They're able to pull off the full Roshan steal. So they get the Aegis on Magnus. Regen might die for what they've done here, but... Wagamama's actually in a bit of trouble as well. Bounty Hunter's going in on him. Oh, and they turn it right around. Problem with Bounty Hunter is that he's so very, very squishy. And they're still chasing, so Magnus has... Oh, he used the Aegis. He died, so he's back up. But they got the Roshan kill, so they got the gold that FUBAR spent all that time setting up. And they got the Aegis. So that's a complete steal, and that it really was that Sven stun. Sven stun is AoE, it's not a single target. So he was actually able to stun 3 players from FUBAR. Smoglid goes down as well, and Pulse are just getting kills all over the place here. This is, you know, a little bit sloppy on the part of both teams, sort of both pressing their luck. There was only 20 seconds till the entire team of Pulse was up, but yet FUBAR thought that they could, without too much damage, deal enough damage to Roshan. They really needed, you know, something like a Medallion of Courage, which is a cheap damage reducing item. Sorry, a cheap armor reducing item to reduce Roshan's armor so that they could deal more damage to him. I think to do that would have really helped them. They're actually unsuccessfully pushing the tower right now. They really need these creeps. If creeps aren't near a tower, it'll get backdoor regeneration, so you can't really damage it down very easily. But now with the creeps, obviously it doesn't regenerate at all, so they're able to pick up that kill. And more damage, more farm on Magnus. He has this blink now as well. It looks like he's going Battle Fury. Battle Fury is one option for a Magnus because when everybody's clumped up from reverse polarity, you can just sort of auto-attack them and deal a ton of damage because Battle Fury gives you auto-attack AoE. And the final things I wanted to note about these teams' game plans at this stage in the mid game, unsuccessful glimpse there, is Pucks will get Blink very often because Blink disables if you take damage, but you can sit in phase shift for a while, and then by the time the phase shift is up, you actually can just blink out of a tough situation. So we saw Puck doing that in some of these fights earlier. So Mini might get picked off here just with the high magic damage that FUBAR is able to deal, and he does. So I think Pulse are going to have to retreat away from this fight. They've got track on Regen as well. And then the other thing is, because this Luna's playing so defensively, and he had to get his Black King bar first, you heard me earlier mention that lifesteal is very good on Luna. He doesn't have it yet. So, to get that early lifesteal for Luna, instead of him actually building it up himself, that's why they put this Vlad's on this Bounty Hunter. So, that gives that Luna that additional % damage and the lifesteal. That's an aura. So that's actually going to be very, very good for him as well. Oh, sorry. That's actually not right. This is completely wrong. That's what I thought it was, but the lifesteal from Vladimir's only affects melee, and Luna's not melee. So, if he was a melee hero, that would be the case, but it's not, because it's not. One interesting thing in this game that we can take a look at is the fact that both teams just really good warding and really aggressive warding. Pulse, every time they make sort of a territorial seizure, they use that to follow up. Well, one ward just expired, but they follow it up with these very, very front-placed wards to keep track of where FUBAR are moving. So they're able to sort of get the territory, so they get that tier 2 tower, and immediately sort of secure it with this ward by giving them essentially vision and map control of the area. Meanwhile, FUBAR, you know, they've sort of had to go to a defensive perimeter here, but you see sort of the same principle at work. They're sort of attempting to push back the area of control that Pulse is able to exert with these wards. And they sort of know that Pulse has been warding very aggressively, so these, in addition to protecting against smoke ganks, so people using the ability Smoke of Deceit to cloak their whole team, these are, I think, also intended to sort of stop these offensive wards. But the problem is Pulse is placing their wards in such unorthodox locations, like this is just very, very unorthodox, that it's tough to sort of guesstimate where the ward's going to be to counter ward it with a sentry ward. So Pulse are massing up again, I think. We've got Wagamama is actually just farming the jungle, but they've got this pretty dangerous ball down here. It's important to note, Pulse still has all of their towers up. So they're only 6 kills up, but the fact that they have 6 towers, a 6-tower advantage, and most of this tower, is really, really significant. And you can see this sort of long-term dividends paid by the fact that they bothered to seize map control in the top lane early. By the fact that early on in the game, Luna was ahead of Sven in farm by a hugely substantial margin, but now it's down to basically 10 last hits. And that's because, you know, Sven has the run of basically all of this area of the map, and it's very, very difficult, or FUBAR has to spend a lot to sort of threaten him in those areas. Luna, meanwhile, has far less of an area of the map in which she can actually get the farm that she needs. So you can see that when you also tally up the kill advantage, Sven is actually ahead of Luna in terms of total gold per minute he's raising, and his value as a hero, so his net worth of money plus stuff on you, is higher than Luna's. Now Luna scales they both scale pretty well. Luna needs more farm than him, so actually 10k is, you know, not quite enough for Luna to feel very, very comfortable with the way that the game is going, whereas 12k is very, very comfortable for Sven. He's got his BKB, he's got his Mask of Madness, he could, if he wants to, build a full armlet. I don't know if he will, he might go for something else, he might go for Daedalus or what have you, but regardless, Sven is very, very happy with his farm level right now, whereas I think Quixis still wants more. All he has is this very, very defensive Tranquil Boots, this defensive Black King Bar, and his Drums of Endurance, which are great for Luna, but, you know, he's spent all the charges on them already, and they're not, like, a ton of damage. Regent gets caught out here. There's almost no way that he'll escape from this. Oh wow, they decided to use the reverse polarity to help Regent escape because he's just, you know, so critical for their team right now. So a lot of ults dropped here. We've got the Jakiro macro power dealing column damage, we've got the Static Storm, but as a consequence, now they have almost no ultimates left. Now, obviously reverse polarity isn't in the game, isn't in either, but we do have Black Hole, and we might see that come out in this coming team fight. I think Bounty Hunter had almost no way of living through that fight. He has sort of started as a BKB as well. BKB is a very, very key item in this 5 vs 5 fight here, because in basically these teams, because both of them deal so much magic damage. Even Luna, one of her strengths as a carry is that she deals tons of magic damage, especially with this Eclipse ability, which just throws out tons of Lucent Beams. So between her and the Bounty Hunter Shuriken and all of Jakira's abilities and Disruptor's abilities and Puck's abilities, that's a ton of magic damage that Pulse can BKB through. And vice versa, the Storm Hammer, the Rubik abilities, the Magnus, the Enigma, those can deal a ton of magic damage as well, so it's important for both teams to sort of accumulate their BKBs. Now, Puck does not make it out of that, but we do have the Eclipse. Usually after Eclipse, Luna will just run in, but Pulse, Fishbone is able to pop his BKB and take all the players down within it. So we've got buybacks coming from Puck and Luna. They're going to come back into this fight. Jakira's going to die, unfortunately. He's a little frail for this point in the game. Bounty Hunter runs in, but then has to run out. We lost most of the duration of that Eclipse. It didn't hit anybody that wasn't BKB'd. So exactly that. The BKBs ended up key in the matchup. They pick off another player. They pick off Puck again. He's actually not... He hasn't been able to survive quite as much as Pucks are sometimes able to. And I think Pulse is going to seize this series of racks. Quix is actually in quite a bit of trouble here. Do they have a Storm Hammer? They do. Quix is going to go down. This has gone from bad to worse for FUBAR. And Regent has just... He's all the way up to 12k gold value. Magnus just walking through the entirety of the macro prior there, but Zapcrash is unfortunately out of position. He will die again. He gets skewered back. They're going to take this Rax. I don't know if Pulse will stop here. They could just keep going. They might actually go for another Rax. They could go for top here. The lane is already pushed in, or they could just keep fighting. Static Storm is down, but Reverse Polarity counters it. We're going to lose 2 more on FUBAR. They're just dying and dying and dying. They are not getting a good moment in which all 5 of them can actually be alive to do something. It's just kind of rough for them because, you know, when there's 5 of them up, they're generally not up for long because they sort of got behind the ball in this accumulating BKBs. So this BKB on Enigma was extremely key because before you could interrupt him in any number of ways. You could interrupt with a Shuriken Toss, you could get a Eclipse or a Lucent Beam or anything from Jakiro or a lot of stuff from Disruptor or Puck. Now, nothing you do goes through this BKB. So if Enigma's in a tight area, as he was here, he can Eclipse your best, he can Black Hole your best characters, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, FUBAR haven't GG'd out because they are going to have 4 people up in a second. They might be able to pull Pulse off of this Ancient, but obviously losing your tier 4 towers, the 2 towers that protect the Ancient, is just incredibly dangerous and unfortunate for a team, because you can never not worry about this Ancient again. The Ancient, it does regenerate health over time, but any time there are creeps coming down here, you can't rely on your towers actually stopping their damage. And in fact, you know, this Catapult left unchecked will do a lot of damage to the Ancient. And I think Pulse pulled halfway back and then saw that FUBAR was sort of heading out, and they're like, yes, let's go right back in. Wagamama pops his BKB. They decide, I think that this is might be a little unwise. Well, no, they're chasing Christopher Nolan here on his Puck. Oh, that was unfortunate. He just sort of walked. He ran out of escapes to use. That's very, very bad for him. So now Puck's down. They might just try to push for the GG again. Regent jumps in. He doesn't quite land that shackle to shackle 2 people, but they are dealing a lot of damage to Zapcrash. This Jakiro has just been picked on all game, and I think in just some engagement, we do have the Eclipse coming out, so that's dealing a ton of damage. Fishbone did BKB, and wow, total miss on that Reverse Polarity. He doesn't actually manage to land anybody and stun them. Wagamama's still running, but I don't think he can pick him off. But the problem is, what can they really do to just stop losing here? Sven just does so much damage, and they call it GG. So FUBAR is going to GG out. You know, they did okay in the last team fight, but Sven just does so much damage to a structure, and you have so few ways of actually getting him out that you just can't stop him from killing your Ancient. It's very rough to have a Sven on the opposing team, and you have an Ancient that's not protected by any towers. And especially when that Sven has that Magnus and power that gives him 50% more damage. That's just extremely rough. So Pulse take this out. I think FUBAR were able to exert some influence over the tri-lane, so they had the aggressive tri-lane that they ran bottom. And I think that was good. They were able to sort of get an advantage over Sven there in terms of keeping him from getting too many last hits, but they were caught out of position several times, which allowed Pulse to sort of, if not win that lane, do much better than would be expected to from a 2 vs 3 lane against a very, very aggressive tri-lane with you know, Enigma out in the jungle. And then as the game wore on, we sort of started to see Chu really go around the map and get a lot of track kills, but Pulse managed to nip that in the bud effectively, and the way they did it is traveling as 3 everywhere, so Bounty Hunter just excels in a 1 vs 1 situation. He's really, really good at just taking someone and picking them off and just killing them right then and there. But Pulse traveled as 3. They would sort of jump across the map, defend a tower, then jump back across the map to fight Bounty Hunter, and they sort of never gave Bounty Hunter that opportunity to really develop into a terror. Meanwhile, FUBAR were just forced to play very, very defensively and pick up lots of defensive items by virtue of the fact that they had so much trouble keeping their keeping their people alive, just because of the huge amounts of damage. Both teams were dishing out a ton of damage, but because Pulse were able to position better in a lot of early engagements, they were able to just get their defensive items that they needed a little earlier, while also going, you know, balls to the wall damage on Magnus and on Sven. And that ended up really paying off because they were just able to kill those high magic damage dealing supports on FUBAR, like Smogleg on the Disruptor and Zaptoid on Jakiro. They were able to kill them before those people were actually able to do too much in team engagements. And as a consequence, they were able to seize the game. So I will do this Fnatic versus no Tidehunter game. It starts in a minute. I'm going to turn off the stream and then turn it back on so that, you know, there's just a natural breakpoint. But I think this is going to be an interesting game as well. And this is also going to be Starladder. Fnatic is a team that's sort of been gaining prominence in the scene. They are actually, well, no, I'll do the intros after I start the stream again. So back in 1 moment.